Hi, welcome to Get to Know Metro. I'm Michelle Spaziano. Today we're going to be talking to Metro Public Health Department's Food Protection Division. And we're also going to be tagging along on a food inspection that's unannounced. So let's get started. I'm sitting with Steve Crozier, who is the Director of the Food Protection Division at Metro Public Health Department. Steve, thank you so much for joining us on Get to Know Metro. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So Steve, what is the role of the Metro Public Health Department's Food Protection Division?
We have three main responsibilities through our contract with Tennessee Department of Health and Tennessee Department of Agriculture. Okay. These three responsibilities are doing our permitting and inspection of all retail food stores, right. Doing food safety training classes, and investigating any potential foodborne outbreak.
What are you looking for in these inspections? Or can you give us an overview of the inspection?
Our office, we have 12 inspectors, and they're responsible for over 4,600 permits. Wow. In a given year, we'll make probably over 13,000 inspections.
That's a lot of inspections.
Yes.
It's good to know, though, right? The places we're eating at.
Right. And with our inspections, and we use this inspection report. It's a 44-point inspection report. You could get a possible 100 all the way down to a 0.
So each one is probably worth a few points then?
Oh, yes. They range anywhere from 1 to 5 points, with 5-point violation being your critical violation, and especially your risk factors.
How many critical violations are there?
There are 13.
13? Oh, wow. And what is some of the most common critical problems you see in food service areas?
Well, the most common, probably the most important, is your food temperatures, your hand washing or lack of hand washing, and not sanitizing food contact equipment.
Oh, okay, like cutting boards and stuff.
Yeah, like cutting boards, pots and pans.
Now, so I understand we're going to be able to tag along on a food inspection. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I'm excited to do that. Well, thank you so much for being with us on Get to Know Metro. I really appreciate it. We're standing with Ivone Rodriguez, and she is one of the food inspectors for Metro Public Health Department's Food Inspection Division. And today we're tagging along on an unannounced food inspection. So tell us, what is the first step? What do you do as soon as you walk in the door or the area that you're going to inspect?
Well, after introducing myself to the employee, we're going to come and wash our hands first because we don't want to contaminate anything.
Oh, okay. Well, good. It's right here. That was easy. So now, why did you do that first? That's interesting. I've never seen that before.
Well, since my hands were dirty, I'm going to be touching the lever. So once I roll out the paper towels and I have clean hands, I'm not going to recontaminate them.
See, now I would have never thought that. Oh, and here's another question I have. I understand there's a certain amount of time you have to wash your hands for to clearly and positively clean all the germs away.
A minimum of at least 20 seconds.
20 seconds. That's like counting to your ABCs, right?
ABCs, or a lot of people do happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So, would you like to?
Yes. So I pump first. ABCD, happy birthday to me. My birthday is coming up. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Is that good?
That's good.
Wow, that's some hot water, Ivone. Okay. Ooh.
Now that's one thing that you want to do a little different.
What?
Is actually dry your hands and then use your towels to close, because your hands could recontaminate again.
Got it, because they turn them on when they're dirty.
Right.
Oh, for crying out loud. You learn something new every day. Okay. I think my hands are pretty clean.
So,
what's next?
With our inspection process, we focus on major risk factors that are contribute to foodborne illnesses.
Okay, so these are the things we look for during an inspection.
Correct.
Foodborne illnesses.
Risk factors that contribute to foodborne illnesses. So one of the first risk factors is food source. We want to make sure that the food that each restaurant receives comes from an approved source, like a commercial kitchen or a meat packing plant or some type of location that is permitted and licensed to provide food to the public.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
The other important risk factor is time temperature control, whether it's hot holding, keeping hot foods hot and keeping cold foods cold, and making sure that the food is cooked to the proper temperature to destroy any microorganisms or germs, if you will.
So what's the temperature they have to keep hot food at?
Hot foods need to be at 135 or above,
Wow.
and cold foods need to be maintained at 41 or below. Now, if you have a specific type of meat, for example, you're going to cook it to a higher temperature, but the 135 is the minimum temperature for keeping it hot.
Okay.
Okay?
Now, do you have a thermometer in there?
I do.
She does. Oh, well, I guess I would figure you would, right?
I have a thermometer.
A main part of the inspection.
Yes, checking temperatures is very important. So we're going to make sure we have a nice, good, clean thermometer.
Okay, is that a sanitized one, sanitary wipe?
It is. It's a little alcohol swab.
Okay.
And we're going to go right into this hot box and check the temperatures. For example, right now here up front they have some carrots.
Right. And it says 172.
172 is what the cabinet is being held at. And these carrots are being maintained at 179 degrees.
So that's good, right?
Correct.
Oh, yay, they passed on that.
Close this back up.
I bet people get quite intimidated when you walk into the building and introduce yourself, right? Because these visits are unannounced.
These are all unannounced, and we try to, be friendly and be at ease because we want to work together to
Right.
provide safe food.
Right.
So, for example, we've got chicken here. This chicken should be cooked to 165 degrees. And the internal temperature of the chicken is at 168 degrees. So it too is being maintained at a safe temperature.
Now, I know for a fact that, chicken carries salmonella. So when you're cooking it, you have to cook it for a certain amount of time, right?
Right. You want to cook it at a temperature of at least 165 degrees.
While you're cooking it. For how long?
For 15 seconds.
15 seconds?
At that temperature.
Oh.
So 165 degrees will destroy any bacteria. And you want it exposed to that temperature for that amount of time to make sure that any germ destruction will happen.
Now, how do they know if
Bacteria
they're
destruction.
complying with that? I mean, do they have thermometers here that they're
Right.
testing as they're cooking? I mean, that would seem...
That's what they have to do.
Wow.
Not only just in hot holding, but also as they're cooking and before they pull it out of the oven or off the stove, they want to make sure they get a proper cooking temperature.
Okay. So that's checked. Now, how many checkpoints are there on the inspection form?
The inspection form has 44 items that
okay.
we look for. Each item might have more than one part to it, but it's a total of 44 items.
Okay, and how many, is it points for each item?
Yes. Each item, whether it's a critical violation, is either going to be worth 4 points or 5 points each.
Oh, wow, okay.
And the non-critical violations, those are 1 and 2 points each.
How many critical violations are there on the
There
form?
are 13 critical violations on the form.
13, wow, that's quite a few. And what happens if you find a violation or even a critical violation?
On the critical violations, we're going to try to have immediate correction, and then we will come back for a reinspection within 10 days.
Now, is that announced or unannounced?
Those are announced.
Oh, okay, so they do know you're coming back to re-inspect.
Correct.
And can you tell me what is one of the most popular critical violations that you've seen in your job?
Probably one of the most popular is inadequate hot and cold holding of foods.
Okay. So that's one that's very critical. Wow.
It's very important because that can make someone sick.
We don't want to get sick.
There are 3 that we really pay attention to, which are, or let me rephrase that. There are 5 that we pay most attention to, which are the risk factors. Your food sources, your temperature control, whether it's keeping hot foods hot and cold foods cold, making sure foods are cooked to the proper temperature, hygienic practice and hand washing, making sure that employees are coming to work when they're are healthy and they're not sick.
How do you monitor if employees are washing their hands? I'm sure not every restaurant or cafeteria or snack bar that you go to has cameras. So how do you monitor that?
We observe while we're doing the inspections. We ask a lot of questions to see if the employee knows when they need to wash their hands, if they properly wash their hands and know where to do it. For example, we want them to wash their hands at the hand sink and not at a food preparation sink.
Okay, I gotcha. So they're not required to wear gloves?
The only time that someone is required to wear gloves is if they have a cut or wound on their hands that's exposed. We really recommend that if they're handling any ready-to-eat foods that are not going to be cooked or heat treated in any sort of way, that they wear gloves to protect that food.
Gotcha. I bet you're not going on a plane anytime soon with that thermometer. Okay, so explain what we're going to do now. Is this still taking the temperature of the food?
Yeah, this is food that's ready to be served to the public. So we want to make sure that this food is just as hot as the food that's back in the warming cabinets.
Okay. Must say it looks pretty good. I'm getting hungry.
So
want me to test it?
we're looking at the temperature, and the food up here is at 187 degrees. So that's
even warmer.
This is even warmer, but it's well above the 135 degrees that's required.
So that's good. Good news. So far, good news. Don't you like when you have good inspections and everything's nice?
Yeah.
Does it make your job easier?
It does make my job easier. It makes it more enjoyable in that
you can give them good news at the end.
give them good news and that everything's safe.
Now, Ivone, are the results public knowledge? I mean, can the public, people that are coming into the restaurants, actually see the results of their inspections?
Yeah. Our office has the inspections. They're available online as well.
Okay.
And anytime you come into an establishment, to a restaurant, you should be able to see the score posted on the wall.
Oh, right on the wall. Oh, wow.
So these riblets are at 190 degrees. So these two are nice and hot.
So did you hear that? When you're going to your favorite restaurant, you can basically look right on the wall as soon as you walk in and get their scores from the Metro Public Health Department's food inspection. I think that's pretty neat. So even if it's a bad score, they have to have it up there, right?
Correct.
Ooh, I bet that would hurt business.
But remember that each establishment has the opportunity for a follow-up. So on their follow-ups, as long as they've corrected their critical violations, those points are added back.
Oh, okay, good. So does the score sheet go up initially after the first unannounced inspection, or is it after you come back to re-inspect?
After we come back to re-inspect.
Okay. But if they pass, then it goes up.
Right. Either way, it goes up. The most current inspection is the one that has to be posted visible to the public.
Oh, I see. Now, are the ladies or even the gentlemen required to wear hairnets?
Hairnets are required if you're preparing food. Anytime that you can have a preventive measure to control any contaminants like hair. So hairnets are required.
They are required, okay.
All right, I think we're good with the hot foods.
Okay, well that's great. Well, I'm glad we're on a good one where everybody's doing good and food's great. Maybe we can stay and eat lunch.
We also check temperatures in the refrigeration because, like I said earlier, the hot foods have to be at 135 or above,
Okay.
and cold foods need to be at 41 or below.
41 or below.
So if we go to the walk-in cooler, we
All
can
right, I'm gonna
find
follow
some
you.
cold foods.
Oh, burr. It feels like 41 degrees, that's for sure. Well, I can tell you by the feel of it in here, it feels pretty cold. Oh, wow, so you just puncture the whole milk to check it?
Check it to make sure that it's at 41 or below, which the milk is at 38 degrees, so
That's beautiful.
it's nice and cold.
You don't even look cold, Ivone.
No.
You must be used to this.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so the milk's good. And do you pick stuff randomly to test, or is there certain, you have to test the milk or you have to test the...
We want to make sure we check what's considered potentially hazardous, and those are the foods that can support the growth of bacteria.
So milk's one of them for sure? Okay.
Meats. There's certain fruits and vegetables. For example, sliced melon is potentially hazardous. And if they had the watermelon slice, we would check that as well.
Okay. Well, I'm glad things are good in here because I want to get the heck out of here. I like the warm stuff better.
Well, let's go this way and we'll check the
Okay.
sanitation.
All right. Sanitation.
So over here at the 3-compartment sink, what we want to make sure is that as they wash their dishes that comes in contact with raw foods, that it is safe to wash and remove the dirt and rinse the soap and the dirt off and then sanitize. And the sanitizing compartment is very important because that's where all the germs are going to be killed.
Oh, okay.
So obviously they have their soap water here, they have lots of suds, and on this far end is where they should have their sanitizer at a proper level to kill the bacteria. And what we have here is a good 500 parts per million of chlorine,
Wow.
and that's a safe level to kill any bacteria that's on the surface of the dishes.
Now, because you have to wash your hands for 20 seconds to get the germs, completely gone, do you have to do that on dishes and pans too?
Well, there is a specified amount of time that the water has to be in, that the dishes have to be in the water, and that's at least 30 seconds for the chemical to work.
The soap or the sanitizer?
The sanitizer.
Oh, okay.
Sanitizer. So the soap is really just getting the heavy dirt off of the surfaces of the dishes.
And so you test the sanitizer.
So we check,
water.
correct, we check the sanitized solution to make sure it's appropriate. Now this same solution is what they're going to use after they have cleaned the prep tables. If they've been preparing raw foods here, they want to come back and wash, rinse, and sanitize with the same solution the prep surfaces, cutting boards, utensils, as well
That
as
makes
whatever
sense.
would
Yeah.
fit in the sinks.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, how long does a typical inspection take? So I think we've been here maybe 30 minutes so far?
Yeah, a typical inspection can last anywhere from maybe 30 minutes to well over an hour to 2 hours in some locations.
Wow. Probably bigger kitchens, bigger establishments.
Mm-hmm. And, depending on their processes, if they have more raw foods that they're handling, the different areas that they utilize to prepare
Like
the
a
food.
sushi place or something, right?
Right. Could be sushi, a big hotel, for example,
okay.
where you have a banquet for 500 to 1,000 guests. Their kitchens are going to be much larger
Okay.
because they have a larger volume.
Well, I want to let you get on with your inspection. We have a couple other people that we're going to talk to. Thank you. Oh, can I shake your hand? Well, we both wash, so thank you very much, Yvonne. Good luck with the rest of the inspection, and we appreciate you being on Get to Know Metro.
Great, thank you.
Well, we're back, and I'm standing with Danny Ripley, who is another food inspector for the Metro Public Health Department's Food Inspection Division. Danny, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you being on Get to Know Metro.
Thank you, Michelle.
Now, you're going to be explaining to us about the training that Metro Public Health Department offers. Is it restaurants and anybody who serves food, or?
Correct. We provide free food safety training to food workers in Nashville, Davidson County,
Okay.
For the restaurants and the facilities that we inspect and permit.
And you said it's free.
It is free, yes.
Nothing's free these days. That's
Yes,
really good.
That's true. It's free of charge.
Okay.
The training covers English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese.
Oh, so you do it in different languages
Different
as well.
languages, absolutely. The training itself is basic food safety. We cover the basic topics such as temperature control of certain foods, cleaning and sanitizing, hygienic practices such as hand washing or restriction of ill workers.
How long does the training last?
The training typically lasts about 2 hours. Following the training, we have a brief exam, and we provide a certificate for those who successfully complete the exam.
Oh, now is it a requirement that these employees take this? Or no?
No, it's not a requirement. We certainly encourage folks to participate in our training, but it's not required at this time.
I was just on the little tour of food inspection with Ivone, and I would think that they would need it because I learned something myself. When she went to wash her hands, she did it in a certain order, and I found out that you have to actually wash your hand for at least 20 seconds to kill all the germs. And she did it where she got the paper towel ready first, she washed her hands, used the paper towel, and then used it to even turn the water off. So those are stuff that you would learn in the training course, correct?
We would teach those things. There are things that are specific to the food service operation that need to be carried out in a certain fashion to be effective. Hand washing is no different. If we skip any of those steps in hand washing, the hand washing process may not be effective, and we may have germs remaining on our hands.
Right. Oh, wow. How do you investigate foodborne illnesses or outbreaks?
The food division investigates outbreaks as a team effort. The team involves inspectors, it involves epidemiologists, it also involves the state laboratory in many cases. It's a team effort. Our goal is to understand the incident that's occurring. Certainly one of the limitations with outbreak investigations are information. We have to have as much information as we can to better understand the population that's involved, the type of disease that's causing illness, and the foods that are the possible contaminated sources.
Well, I hope this doesn't sound like a stupid question, but what was that big word you said? Epidermatologist? Something.
Epidemiologists.
Epidemiologist.
Epidemiologists. They
What
study
is that?
disease.
Oh, okay. They
Okay,
study
so
disease.
their role in an outbreak investigation would be helping interview, helping analyze data, doing case control studies or cohort studies, just analyzing the information as it comes in. Again, one of the greatest limitations to an outbreak investigation is the data, is the information. Essentially, it's the people calling us and letting us know that they're sick.
Oh.
In many cases, people don't call in when they're ill, and that limits our investigations.
How do they prove that it was from a specific place that they ate at? Maybe a number of people got sick from there, or?
Well,
Seems like it would be hard to say.
It's very challenging to confirm an outbreak. We usually need strong environmental or inspection data. We need strong epidemiological data, and we need strong lab data. If we have all three of those components, we can confirm or rule out an outbreak in many cases.
And Danny, if somebody eats at their favorite restaurant or just any restaurant and they feel sick, Is there some recourse? Is there somewhere to call where they could report it?
Absolutely, absolutely. If someone consumes food from a restaurant or a facility located here in Davidson County, we encourage them to give us a call. Our phone number is area code 615-340-5620. We welcome those calls. We address every single call that comes in.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being a part
Absolutely.
of Get to Know Metro.
Thank
It's nice
you,
to
Michelle.
meet you.
Thank you.
Well, it's certainly good to know that the places we're eating at are held to a certain high standard thanks to the Metro Public Health Department. So, I guess that's a wrap, and one you can eat safely. I'm Michelle Spaziano with Get to Know Metro. See you next Saturday.